Recently, the head of HAFL Cecchini Institute, Professor Dominique Guenat, traveled to Dhaka to carry out the final stage of the Train the Trainer series on economic and financial analysis with representatives of the Swiss Development Cooperation team of the Embassy of Switzerland in Bangladesh. Today, we meet with him and his counterpart, Ameena Chowdhury, to discuss the importance of this topic and the impact of the training. So my first question, and this is for the both of you, could you tell us a bit more about why SDC is focusing on carrying out economic financial analysis? What is the value add? Is this part of compliance and monitoring mechanism, or what's the strategy behind it? And either one of you would like to take this on first.
I think if you want to sum it up in one word, it's about accountability. I mean, we're accountable to the domestic stakeholders in Switzerland, the parliament, the taxpayers. We're accountable to our partner government here in Bangladesh. We're accountable to the target groups that we serve. And conducting economic and financial analysis, I think it is one method or one modality to be more accountable and also to be more transparent with what we do. And most importantly, it's also about self-reflection, to do a bit of a pulse check to see whether what we perceive as an intervention that's required is actually worthwhile. So I think that's how I would sum it up in a nutshell.
Yeah, I think value for money is really the keyword. We want to make the best out of taxpayers' money. And this goes back to 2005, the Paris Declaration on Aid Effectiveness, where the donor community, at least the major players, committed to go more into the inquiring about effectiveness of the use of development funds. SDC is one of those who took that very seriously and have now made it compulsory for their programs above 6 million Swiss francs. And this is the reason why we are now doing a number of economic and financial analysis, including this training here in Bangladesh.
And I think for us internally in SDC, we don't only see this as a corporate requirement, but also we feel that as for example, myself as a program manager, I also see it as a very effective tool for effective program management in helping me learn, steer, and manage programs going forward.
So Dominique, just building a little bit on your response, why is HAFL and the Institute team well positioned to provide support on this? Why are we doing this?
Well, you're right. It's a good question. We are a School of Agriculture, Forest and Food Sciences. It's not so obvious that we are in economic and financial analysis. The history of our involvement goes back to 2011 when we had a backstopping mandate for SDC to promote or to support the implementation of cost-benefit analysis, which was done at that time on a voluntary basis. People were encouraged to do it, but were not obliged to do it. This is what has changed now. And over the years, since 2011, we have done a number of those analyses which have contributed to our experience. So we have now quite some experience in this field, which makes us one of the major partners of SDC in that regard.
Okay, and Ameena, and from your side, have you heard any feedback from the participants of the training? How has your experience been so far? What is your feedback to us? So we think we're well positioned, but what do you guys think?
Well, I think you definitely are to begin with. And I have, yes, in fact, prior to this discussion, I did have a quick chat with our colleagues. And actually, we're lucky to have Dominic here in person in Bangladesh because it's the second block of the training. So we actually had a first block earlier in March, I think, right? Is it
February,
March? And so it's a combined feedback. And I think one of the things that Dominic has really helped us is kind of conquer this fear of the unknown. You know, you talk about when new requirements kick in, you always have this kind of speculation about, oh gosh, what are we getting into? How do we do this? And I think the training for my colleagues and myself, it's been really important in getting over this initial fear of the unknown. And also, I think one of the things is, I must say, Dominic, is your ability to simplify complex matters and present them in a succinct way with practical examples that really puts things into context. So I think the point that Dominic said about the Institute having experience, long-term experience in working in this field has really helped us to kind of learn from the practical examples and kind of bring this requirement and looking at it from this pragmatic manner. So that was the basic feedback that my colleagues really thought that although the training was not very long, the first part was done online. It was really kind of easy to understand because it really focused on the practicalities of the requirements. And also what was really helpful was we also worked through our program. So we worked on real examples of the pipeline programs that we have and ongoing programs. And that also kind of helps put things into perspective.
Just to react to what Ameena said about simplifying, simplifying too much may also be a pitfall. It may be dangerous to go too much into simplification because the reality of projects is complex, and we know it. So it's a way of dealing with the complexity of projects, but still addressing that complexity with simple and understandable tools. I mean, the problem with EFAs, economic and financial analysis, is that a large audience is supposed to understand them and to internalize them, to use them in their daily life, especially in project implementation. And if it's done in a technical language that nobody understands, it will not serve this purpose. And that's why we have to go away into simplification, but not cutting out the complexity of the project. So it's a little bit a difficult exercise which we have to do. And one lesson learned from many economic and financial analysis is that it's not a recipe that you apply. It requires every time to reinvent the system applied in a new context and to a new setup of objectives and outcomes.
So basically, no one size fits all and no shortcuts. But I think what's really helped us, and I'm sure my colleagues would echo this, is kind of EFA, the whole concept has been kind of demystified for us now, so we're in this certain level of a comfort zone for now, knock on wood. Let's see how it goes going forward. But that's how we feel at this stage. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you for that answer. And Dominique, what were some of the takeaways for you from training specifically this group? What did you think of the group in Bangladesh? Have there been messages that maybe the group was able to share that sparked up some thoughts? Tell us what your thoughts.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting feeling to meet first online. Also, that was not a real meeting. It was a virtual, so we knew each other, but only virtually. And so it was really a pleasure to be here and to be able to travel despite all the difficulties and restrictions. Looking at, getting a visa for Bangladesh was quite an issue. But then coming to the team and meeting them in person was a very nice experience. And then as a team, I really think they were not pushed in that role, but they had they could decide whether they wanted to participate, because I felt a real commitment and interest, which is not so widespread among all the staff. So I think they have chosen to do it, or they have been selected, but on a voluntary basis. I don't know, but I think they were very interested, and we had very fruitful discussions with them.
I mean, a question for you related to sort of expanding the use of EFAs. Have you already discussed with implementing partners on the ground how you're evaluating projects and how this will impact future activities? So after the training.
Yeah, so so this is a bit of a sequential process. So the management in our embassy here, we took the decision that there'll be a group of us who will be kind of like the focal points for conducting EFAs, and that's what we're doing now. And so we'll be wrapping up tomorrow, and then the next step would be for us, the focal points, to kind of have information sessions with our partners. Again, kind of reintroducing the how to do note that SDC has now which was revised in November. Yeah. 2021, and then I think that it's already been communicated with partners, but these information sessions will again focus on kind of discussing the how to do note with them, being clear on the expectations from them as implementing partners and what SDC's expectations are, and how we can kind of fit it into the programs that we have. So we will be organizing those sessions and the focal points will be taking the lead in moderating those sessions going forward. So that's one of the kind of deliverables that we have as the focal points after this training.
Maybe an important point in our last session today, we discussed about the terms of reference of the focal points regarding EFAs and what is their role now in the SDC team. Not least to avoid wrong expectations. We do not want to push them in a role that is not fit to their level of skills that they have now. They are skilled more than the others, but they are not experts, and we should not expect things that they then would be uncomfortable with. And that's why discussing the role and the terms of reference in this aspect was an important part.
Excellent. And Dominique, then in this roadmap, in defining together what comes next, what would you say are some other important elements to carry out a successful EFA? Which factors will make EFAs more challenging? Which factors can lead to a sure success? Could you share some of these recipes that you would leave the team in Bangladesh with?
Well, this morning we had a meeting with the entire team. Beyond the 6 focal points, we had like 15 people from the SDC office. So all the project managers were present. So we have shared some points with them. So one important lesson is that the implementer, the future project implementer, as far as he's already known, should be involved in the process to avoid that they have a negative reaction like very often they have towards external evaluations. Looking at how well they are doing and bringing critical points to the surface may be critically assessed. So it's important to share the process of developing the EFA is an important one. And it's even more important to have this process well done with the right questions addressed during the process than just the result of the EFA that may be just a few indicators like internal rate of return or net present value. But this alone will not be enough. You need to know what is the story behind, and that story in several cases now has shown that it can contribute to improving the project. Because with critical questions, you question some aspects of the project, and maybe the people may come up with new solutions that will increase the benefits or increase the value added of the project.
And Ameena, the last question for me is for you. What would you like to see more from our team at HAFL? Which other areas beyond the EFAs would you see being relevant for your team in Bangladesh? Is there something else that you would like?
Well, we've actually been engaged. This is not the first assignment that we've had with the Institute. I think one of the unique features of the Institute is that you've got a very diversified skill sets of experts that can be used for, as I was saying, project document development, which we've already experienced. EFAs now is another topic. And of course, for evaluations and reviews, because that's also another niche area.
Yes, I mean, from the thematic point of view, our focus in agriculture, forestry, and food science is I don't think this is at the center of the program in Bangladesh at the moment. There are some aspects are touching these sectors,
Yes.
like enterprise development, that may be in the agriculture sector, but there is no strong focus on these points. So at the moment, it's more our skills and experience in the PCM, project cycle management,
Yes.
that is demanded, and not so much the technical aspects.
Yeah, and that's a good point actually about the thematic focus. I mean, of course, our areas are quite different in the sectors that we work here, but more on the kind of the softer PCM external support requirements. There are opportunities going forward. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
The training is really useful. The way we work, we develop any development project design, and in terms of the PCM, project cycle management, this EFA actually telling us how much essential this is and how much this is useful tool to even not only to do the only EFA per se, but also to increase the efficiency of the project or the budget or the investment Switzerland is making or the other donors. So this is very useful. Methodology wise, it's so flexible. It is flexible because Dominique, as a trainer, he actually listened every one of us. He is so patient as a trainer. He listened to us. He tried to understand what we are talking about exactly. And we have done 4 dedicated EFA for the 4 dedicated programs, and 3 of them are really very much design or concept stage. We even don't know, as a field office, we don't know how to deal with that, how to make this plan, intervention design, or we don't know the expectation even. So here EFA comes. So EFA actually, Dominique helped us. This training actually helped us to go in that level, to go the ex ante analysis, the consideration we should think about before doing that or in the middle of that. And theoretically, as an abstract discussion, he also presented why it's needed, and more he presented the logic of integrating into the PCM. So the picture is very clear.
Online actually we covered quite well, but still actually offline actually sometimes actually is very it's quite good opportunity to directly talk with the resource person. So that's actually we are now getting this advantage, which is really helpful. And through the online we already know the areas, so it's now helpful for us actually to learn more on this issue.